So Charles is down. Charles Edubuahing, the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, he is down. Ken Oforiatta, the Minister of Finance himself, is he to go? Well, that second question is one that has engaged us entire day. It's grabbed the headlines because of the unprecedented historic procedure that is being activated in Parliament, playing out in front of all of our eyes before an ad hoc committee set up by the Speaker of Parliament himself that is hearing the substantive allegations made against Ken Oforiatta, based on which the minority side is asking for him to be removed. That motion of censure, we've never seen that in our democratic history, at least not in its full course as you see it now. And it's become a major issue. At the end of that process, though, as we've seen the hearings play out today, and it's a public sitting, Ken will either stay or will go. We most certainly believe it will come down to a vote on the floor of Parliament after the debate of the ad hoc committee's report. And if today is anything to go by, that debate in the plenary will be explosive. But whatever it is, Ken is gone at the end of the day, or he stays. But many say it's not as straightforward as that, because even if Parliament, on the back of the committee's report, the vote carries, as in the minority side wins, it still comes down to the president to make that decision effective, give life to it, give meaning to it. And the constitutional provision says he may do so. We've already heard the minority side say if he dares not comply with the wishes of Parliament, the people's representative, they will impeach him. Well, we are on the cusp of a major constitutional issue that we are all about to witness. This is uncharted territory. We're going to get into a bit of that today on the back of what we've seen at the committee today. But then, of course, this whole hearing, interestingly, coincidentally, is happening just a day after Charles Edubuahing, by the way, Ken's subordinate, so to speak. He was his deputy, and now Minister of State, was sacked by the president for a few reasons. Let's quickly get into that. We know that by now, we know that apart from the fact that he's been sacked, the special prosecutor is looking into the allegations against him made in the Galamsey economy expose by Anas Arimeh Anas. And this is a statement from the Office of the Special Prosecutor announcing today that the Executive Secretary to the President, on the authority of the President, has now referred the matter to him formally. And the matter is the contents of that investigation that Anas Arimeh Anas put together. I'm sure many of you have watched it. If you haven't already, in a summary is what I bring to you now. In essence, in that documentary, Charles Edubuahing is alleged to have, if you believe the side of the vice president and the spokesperson, they have categorically stated, and we don't have any reason to doubt that, and we'll see how this plays out, categorically stated that this is really down to political grandstanding. Somebody simply running his mouth. That somebody is the deputy, is the finance minister, the Minister of State of the Finance Ministry, running his mouth when he met sheikhs who were posing as business people intending to invest in Ghana, foreign direct investment, asking and telling them that the vice president allegedly will expect $200,000 just to arrange a meeting, what they call an appearance fee. Remember that categorically the office of the vice president have said that isn't true. We don't know the sheikhs. This gentleman here, who is the Minister of State, is somebody that we rarely meets the vice president, only at when they go to economic management meetings where he chairs, and that plays out. And so that obviously has become a center of attention, and the OSP will be looking into those allegations. And if you watch the documentary, Mr. Edubuahing is seen in the video there, packing bundles of dollars that were spread on the table before him into a black polythene bag. That video was captured. It will be of interest to the special prosecutor. Now, that's the essence of the Tiger Eye investigations. But also, in there, he also says to the sheikhs that he will expect 20% cut from a $500 million investment that he intended to make. If you do the maths, that is $100 million that he wanted to pocket for himself out of that, allegedly. None of this is proving. None of this is evidence that has been properly tried in the court of competent jurisdiction, or the OSP has made a finding of fact on, based on which a certain action has been taken. So you have to put in that context. These are all allegations yet to be proven. These are allegations against a man. And the Tiger Eye, though, and if you look at the expose, the man himself then puts up many other alternatives to making money for himself. The Vice President's office, as I said, have already denied this. We've seen the Vice President make it very clear that he actually now speaking to their own lawyers, exploring their options. My guest will get into that and give me a sense of what it makes should the Vice President's office go ahead and also start their own in prosecution, or not prosecution, but take their own civil action against him, possible defamation, whatever it is that is. My colleague Sam Sayedini has also made his own point about this, stressing the point that one of the things that we need to look at is this question about entrapment, which has come up very, very strongly in such investigations by ANAS. That has been an issue. And then, of course, we have the number 12 that involved Kwesi Nyantakyi, right? All of it revolves around the question of entrapment, and that has become an issue for the defense, by the way. Kwesi Nyantakyi used it. That case is still in court. The Galamsey economy, we're already hearing people say that Charles Adubahin was entrapped. We'll get into that. But we'll start tonight from Parliament. What happened in Parliament? This second question is where we'll start, and then we'll end with Charles Adubahin's dilemma and predicament tonight. Stay with me. Joining me tonight for a conversation, Dr. Kojo Asante is with the CDD. He's the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement there. Also joining me tonight is Mary Ada, is a Programs Manager at the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and we are delighted also to be joined by former ranking member on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament in the person of Inusa Fuseni. Grateful. We'll also be joined by Andy Appiah-Kubi. Andy Appiah-Kubi is a Asante Achim North Member of Parliament. Of course, he's one of the MPs. He was a voice for them, the MPP MPs, the majority side, who had gone public demanding the sacking of Ken Ofori-Atta. They've held a meeting today to re-strategize, because they've gone back to the original position, which is that they want the finance minister out right now, immediately, and they will not entertain him reading the budget to the nation at all. And he said himself that if it is a finance minister coming before them to present the budget, he will personally boycott Parliament. So, but what did the entire majority caucus decide in this meeting now? Remember that they have said before that if the president does not sack him immediately, then they'll boycott government business in Parliament. We'll try and get his thoughts and get the very latest from this meeting, so stay with me. But we start tonight from that historic, unprecedented sitting that we saw in Parliament, the ad hoc committee put together by the Speaker of Parliament to hear the case against Ken Ofori-Atta, based on which Parliament will have to decide, finally through a vote, whether to have the president sack him or not. This is a report that sums up what happened today, if you missed it. And I'll get my guests to quickly respond to that. And then we'll get into Charles Adubahin's predicament on the back of the Galamsey economy investigative piece.
It was a hearing full of heated arguments and forceful presentations. The minority set out to brand Ken Ofori-Atta as the minister who must not continue in his current role as the finance minister. Counsel for the finance minister, Gabi Asare-Okyere, objected to the manner in which the minority were handling their evidence.
And it would not be fair to the Minister of Finance to be ambushed and right here, without any preparation, to start answering questions. The documents are fine, but before we even be able to look into the documents, we want the charges to be complete with the particulars. That's all we are asking.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu described the minister as incompetent, the sole reason for country's current economic predicament.
2017, $1 was to 4.2 Ghana cedis. Today, $1 is 15 Ghana cedis. That has meaning for businesses in Ghana. The cost of doing business is unacceptably high for businesses. The pharmaceutical industry is complaining because it affects their imports and they are made to pay more. The depreciation of the cedi has affected even Makola women who cannot trade effectively.
Dr. Kisela Tuforsin said the minister had breached the fiscal responsibility law and has also misreported data to Parliament.
So if you breach it by 1 percentage point, then obviously the vote of censure may trigger. What we have seen is that over the years, even though the minister responsible for finance has been presenting some economic data to Parliament, in the year 2018, Mr. Chairman, you can see it on the board, our minister responsible for finance and the government had said to Parliament that the fiscal deficit was 3.9% of GDP. In fact, in the year 2018, the reason why they said it's 3.9% of GDP was that a key expenditure worth 9.8 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal accounting. They treated it below the line. And this has to do with the financial sector payment. The law was passed on the 28th of December 2018, and by December 31st, 2018, the minister has breached the fiscal responsibility rules already. So 3 days down the line, there was a deficit of 1.8. And that is why we are saying that the trend for the censorship motion moved in the year 2018. In fact, if you were to go by it, somebody could have brought the motion to censor the minister in the year 2018 or 2019 because he breached the rules. And to my surprise, these are rules that were set by the minister himself when this bill, he brought the bill to Parliament for a reason. The reason is to ensure fiscal sustainability and debt sustainability. If you breach these rules, it has long-term repercussion on the Ghanaian economy. And today, we are seeing what is happening. So, Chairman, I tender this one to in evidence.
There was an intense back and forth between Gabi Asare-Ochiridakon, who is lawyer for Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and North Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who is a member of the 8-member ad hoc committee.
Mr. Chairman, we object to this strongly. If he can hold a press conference to deal with those matters, but I think that we are here for a specific reason. Grounds have been stated. Let's stick to that. You know, we are not here for it's not a political platform to make some political pronouncements. These are serious allegations. Please.
He will not teach me how to do my work in Parliament.
No,
this is Parliament. You won't teach me how to do my work.
Let me finish.
No, he can't come here and throw his weight about. He can't teach me how to do my work. I take strong exception that I should go and hold a press conference. Please.
I'm only 78 kilos. I'm not going to throw it about.
Please. I won't accept that.
Yes.
And you are not the chair. You don't tell members of Parliament what to do.
That's fine. So, I mean, we appreciate the point.
I will do my work. I'm not going to hold a press conference. You will not teach me how to do my work.
So that's just a summary of some of the explosive nature of the commentary that happened before the committee today. The reason why this is interesting is that in our constitutional dispensation in 1992, under this constitution, this is the first time we are properly testing that constitutional provision that may lead to the removal of a minister, the vote of censure. Let me bring in my guest now. Inusa Fuseni used to be the ranking on the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee. Mr. Fuseni, give me your quick reaction to what happened today.
Well, what happened today, Evans, let me say good evening to you and your cherished viewers and my colleagues, colleague panelists on your show. What happened today was to be expected. I mean, if a committee, an ad hoc committee of 8 members constituting 2 chairmen and 3 other members each, to sit over an issue like a ministerial, which clearly is the first time that members of parliament are demonstrating their authority to remove a minister who, in their view, is not performing. Clearly, it goes into politics as well. And so, right from the time the essential motion was moved on the floor of the House, up to the time that the Speaker established this committee, you could see the partisanship, and you could see the various actors in Parliament lining up behind their various leaders. So I'm not surprised at all that even though there have been attempts to appear to be neutral and interested in putting the facts forward for people to understand what is at stake, those facts, those who are disputing the facts, have raised their objections with political undertones, and there have been an attempt by the minority to prove beyond doubt that Ken must go, and equally the majority who are unrelenting in their defense of the finance minister. So, and you have, for the first time in our parliamentary democracy, apart from the essential motion, this is the only time that a committee of parliament has been formed which has no majority, which has no minority. Committees of parliament take decisions based on unanimity or consensus. So if it's going to be consensus, the issue will have to be put to a vote. And I don't know whether Speaker, in establishing the 8-member committee with co-chairman, had also thought of the custom vote. Because if the vote is taken and there's a tie, what happens? The Constitution says that when there's a tie in Parliament on an issue, the issue fails. It falls. What happens? What will happen at the committee level? Yeah. So there are many questions that answer. We are waiting cautiously to see what happens after Friday, because the issues at stake clearly cannot be resolved at the committee level. And like I told you when the committee was established, that this issue will finally be resolved on the floor of the House.
On the floor of the House. And we are waiting for that. Very interesting points you've raised. So many firsts. I wonder what that means for our democracy. And I'll bring in Dr. Kojo Asante with the Center for Democratic Development. This is what they do. What is his take on what this means for our very young democracy? And I'll get Mary Adder's immediate, quick reaction also to this process that was triggered in Parliament today. Some of the allegations borders on corruption as well against the substantive finance minister. His Minister of State is already gone. We'll come to that. But I want to quickly return to something that happened today. And Andy Appiah-Kubi is joining us now. He is the Member of Parliament for Asanteachim North. And he was the person who spoke for the majority MPs when they first held a press conference announcing their demand for the president to sack the finance minister. He joins us right now on the show. Mr. Appiah-Kubi, thank you for your time here on PM Express. Mr. Appiah-Kubi, kindly unmute your Zoom connection for me.
Right.
Fantastic. I can hear you loud and clear now, sir. So tell me, Mr. Appiah, where do we stand tonight as far as yourself and your colleagues are concerned on the subject of Ken Ofori-Atta?
Our position remains the same. As we told the president, that our appeal to him was to relieve Mr. Ofori-Atta of his position as finance minister. The position has never changed. It has always been the same. And it's the same now as it was when we made the petition.
When I spoke to you yesterday, you were categorical that you were going to meet again today on
Yes.
this matter. Did that meeting happen?
It did. And the position has not changed.
Okay.
And we reaffirmed the old position that Ofriatta must go. So we are still where we are.
Okay. So what it means is that, for those who haven't followed this, your first press conference was sack him immediately. And then you met the president, and then we were told that that position has been relaxed till after the budget is read and the IMF. And then last week, we heard that you've gone back to the original position. A meeting was then held today, and just to confirm again with you, and this meeting has reaffirmed your original position.
That's correct.
Okay.
We've gone back to sack him now. And therefore, we expect that some action be taken in respect of relieving him of his position. We have also told the president that if he is not relieved of his position, we shall not cooperate or work with him or participate in anything that he brings to Parliament. And that position is where we are right now.
So that last bit, when you say anything that he brings, that is anything that is brought in the name of the executive president?
Under the hand of the finance minister, we will not participate.
Okay.
Because as far as we are concerned, we are not going to do business with him. And if we are not going to do business with him, he does not participate in any process from the presidency to the House. We will not participate in deliberations on it.
Okay. I asked this to get clarity. So if another minister comes to the floor, say education minister, energy minister, although they are coming on the authority of the president, you will hear them. You will do business with them.
We will so do, because we are not saying that we will do president business, but we will not do president business through Mr. Ofriatta. So if anybody else comes with president business to do, we will participate.
Okay. Let me ask you then, the budget has been pushed forward. If you listen to your majority leader, he says it's pushed forward to the end of this month. We know today, Mr. Ofriatta is vehemently fighting for his life before the ad hoc committee. If what happened today is anything to go by, the man does not intend to either resign. The president hasn't indicated that he intends to sack him. And so everything is on course for him to present the budget come that appointed day, end of month. What is going to happen if he shows up on the budget presentation day?
As I told you before, if he is the person to come to Parliament with the budget, we will not attend to him. And therefore, he will speak to those who will sit. But we, as members of that group of 98 now, we will not attend to him.
So the decision has been taken by the group today that if he comes to present the budget, your side, you say you are now 98, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the position is that you will boycott the budget presentation if it is him who is presenting it.
If it is him who is presenting it, we will not be part. And we will not sit for him to present.
Okay. Has this position been formally communicated to the president who appointed him?
Well, we did that in a press conference, the second press conference. And today we have affirmed that position. And we have communicated this to the leadership of the majority. So we have done our bit. It is for the majority because the majority adopted our position from our first press conference. And for now, we believe that communication through the leadership of the majority is adequate information to the presidency and anybody who is a stakeholder.
Okay. Mr. Appiah, will you please stay with me for a minute because there's a lot to unpack from what you just said. Mariada, I know we had reached you to fundamentally talk about ANAS, but this is linked, obviously, because of the same ministry. Quickly, Mary, please give me your reaction to what you're just hearing there. Another unprecedented move. You've gone back to that position. They've met today. 98 now of MPP MPs have this position. What's your reaction to this?
Evans, it is good evening to you and to the other panelists, but also say good evening to your viewers. It is pleasant to hear that the democracy we are practicing is really improving. We say so because when we had this hung parliament, one of the benefits we wanted to see was the vigorous nature of the debates and then the independence of thought and the credibility of legislations that would come from there. Particularly for us anti-corruption crusaders, we thought the political economy in parliament would definitely change. And so we won't have issues around perceptions of corruption coming up. And this is manifest of what we anticipated, that people would then have independence of thought and be able to stick to saying. This is why we voted for our parliamentarians to represent us as a people in parliament, to make laws and to ensure that they are oversighting the executive. So in this, we appreciate their efforts. When they realize, I believe also because they have come to realize that the challenges being confronted by the people of Ghana, their constituents whom they represent, are not exclusive to a certain group of people. It is for all of us. And they are also beginning to appreciate that these could have disastrous consequences on their re-election base as a party. And so for that matter, they need to make a decision. And for some of us, it is heartwarming, it's interesting to see the power play that is going on. That is what democracy is supposed to be. And for us, we applaud them. We hope that they don't go back on their word, because the first time we were all up there applauding them, encouraging them to continue to do what they did. And then a day after, they had come back to say they were going to allow the Minister of Finance to carry on with his business as the president requested. But you see, as it is said, only a fool does not change his mind. And so we know our MPs are discerning from both sides of the House, and they understand exactly what is happening in our space. And so if they have taken an entrenched position, we believe that that is the way to go. However, it now behoves on the president, who has the exclusive powers to ensure that he does the demands, or he meets the demands of his party members who are in parliament. We hope he hears and grants this demand.
Yeah.
It is painful to see how the finance minister is going through this. For some of us, we believe perhaps maybe he knows other things we do not. But for some of us, we believe that maybe it would have served his own interest to perhaps have stepped aside. But then we do not know other things that are going on. And so for us, we applaud them. The process that is going on in Parliament is also a very laudable one. Today, I saw our MPs standing for what they are demanding on the opposition side. I saw the majority MPs also defending their own. I saw the two co-chairs doing the right thing, even though there was a lot of heckling along the way. But I realized that there was a lot of composure on the part of those who made their submissions. They were very focused. They presented their points on issues of debt, on issues of corruption, conflict of interest, and they were very specific, presenting documents which had been presented earlier. And I think if this is how it would go, it's good for our democracy building and going forward. We hope and pray that it would be the same on Friday and the president would hear the clarion call of his own people.
And you're right, Mary, because everything we are witnessing is so unprecedented, uncharted territory. Let me bring in Dr. Kojo Asante very quickly into this. Dr. Kojo Asante, we started off looking at the Ken Ofori-Atta hearings, and then Mr. Pierre Kubi comes in and gives us this fresh information right from this meeting the now 98 members have just had today. Your quick reaction to that, I mean, to this turn of events on the back of a day when we've seen Ken Ofori-Atta fight for his ministerial life before an ad hoc committee. At that same time he's doing this, his own colleagues in his own party, in Parliament, have decided that we can't do business with him anymore. We've gone back to our original position. He has to go now. Your quick reaction to that?
Well, thank you, and good evening to all your viewers. I have to take a slightly different perspective on this one. I am really frustrated that we have to actually even come to this point. Because really, we forget that we are in economic crisis. We forget that, like government's response and actions, government needs all the focus at the time it needs to solve these problems. When the Citizen Coalition did its press conference and made the point that it was important to do the reshuffle to relieve the finance minister and his deputies so that you can begin to build or rebuild some confidence. I don't understand why the president has dragged his feet on this matter. Because now we are in a process. The finance minister was supposed to go and present the budget next week. Now the finance minister is spending his time in a courtroom, and I'll come to that, trying to respond to charges against him and so on and so forth. When he should be, if indeed he is the one that is preparing for this budget for our consideration, he should be doing that work. So I think the president really, some of these, steps should have been taken by the president in a long time, and I don't know why he's not seeing the bigger picture that we are going to diffuse a lot of the tension, because in a country where you have crisis, the last thing you need is more polarization and more sort of time spent on these kinds of actions rather than focus on the business of actually dealing with the problems that Ghanaians are facing. The president came out the last time when he did his address to the nation and said that after his address, ministers will be out there with programs, and apart from the agri minister, we haven't seen any minister out there. So we really, for me, I think the president has a lot of responsibility to help diffuse these issues and allow a focus on some, because they are real deep problems that does not go away, and we don't need these kinds of distractions. So, as I said, for me, it's a real frustration to see that we have to get to these points and we are doing these things in order to make, for me, a very simple decision about trying to, just exert some accountability and then help us to move on the process. Remember, it's not even just the finance minister that the citizens are raising concerns. That reshuffle is important to give some new space, some new focus to government so that it can be, it can really deal with the problems. My second point, and quickly, is that, yes, the process of censure is unprecedented. And as somebody who we are building institutions of governance and promoting democracy, it's good to see. What I am really finding a problem with Parliament is the over-judicialization of this process. We've turned it into a courtroom where people are leading evidence and so on. I think we really need to pull away, and I don't know whether because of the lawyers in Parliament that tend to dominate these kinds of proceedings, but we really need to pull away from that, because you can look at other jurisdictions, other parliaments, US recently, all kinds of investigations. The processes are simple. Every member of parliament can participate. It's not technical, it's just getting an establishment of facts and then we move on. But now you're talking about evidence and, this and that. I think really Parliament should look seriously because when you do that, you completely take away from, the role that Parliament has to do. Then you get into very strict technicalities about establishing, very strict evidence and all of those things. Really, that is not Parliament. Parliaments don't do that, even though they have powers of High Court and so on. That's not how Parliaments behave. And we really need to pull back because listening to the conversations today and, sort of lawyers talking and staging this, for me, it was not helpful. But I do recognize that this is a real big step, in our democracy. 30 years down the line, this is the first time we're having a essential motion being debated, and we're going to learn a lot from it, even in terms of the procedures that have been rolled out. And hopefully, we can build better systems to try to utilize these kinds of tools within Parliament.
Interesting dimension. Mr. Piakubi, quickly, if you may, do you understand the frustration that Dr. Kojo Asante has and has expressed about this whole process around Ken Ofori-Atta at the time that we are in an economic crisis? Do you understand that frustration?
Oh, we do, and we think that also that it is not necessary at all that we come to this position. But one will say, how did it happen? And whose fault? We flagged this intention long ago, and the expectation was that, the responses could meet the expectations of the people, particularly members of Parliament. And as we have it now, the minority side of Parliament, through the censure motion, they are saying that we won't do business with him. And majority side of Parliament, through another process, is saying that we won't do business with him. So 275 people in the House all saying that we won't do business with him. And let us also not forget that the legislative arm of government is a partner in the development of the country and the development of governance generally. So one wing says we will do business with one element of another wing. Why are we saying that he is the only person to do that which others say we won't cooperate with him in doing? So if you want to apportion blame, I'm sure it will not be proper to lie it on the legislative wing. Now, put together the process of censure and the process of appeal to president to relieve him. It speaks to the world that the whole House says that the House will not do business with him. So whose fault? Well, if one wing is saying that we won't do business through this guy, what stops the executive wing of also acceding to the request of the legislative wing? Because now we have a situation of the whole Parliament refusing to do business with one person from the executive. So, as far as we are concerned, we appreciate the frustration, but the frustration is needless and it could be avoided, and it has to be avoided.
I mean, Mr. Fusedi, even you, with all your experience in Parliament and in politics, must find all that we've heard tonight and all that has happened in the last few weeks very fascinating, if not mind-boggling. I mean, Dr. Kojo Asante is frustrated. Mary, of course, is applauding the process. I wonder what's your own mix of emotions you're feeling, hearing Mr. Piakubi and his colleagues, there's unanimity on this matter in Parliament.
Well, it's quite amazing also that you have a president who clearly has sworn an oath to lead a government that will seek the welfare of the people. 136 members of parliament representing about half the people of this country. 98 members of the majority side saying that they have lost confidence in an appointee of the president. Together, that is about 211 or so members, 214 members, 214 constituencies. That is more than 2/3 of the people of this country. I mean, it's only the height of impunity that a president will not listen and act on the wishes of the people. Yes, Dr. Kujo Asante is right that when you have a president or the executive turning a deaf ear to what is happening in Parliament and holding on obstinately to a person who has so much been talked about, who appears to have outlived his usefulness in government, then you wonder what is happening to the country. And then people are beginning to question even this government architecture. For instance, how come that we are not able to change government by a simple vote of no confidence in our president? Because he's refused to act. And we don't see why he's not acting. The only reason that we are beginning to fathom is because it's related to Kenneth Furata. And that also played out in the Sunshine ad hoc committee today when he chose to go with his cousin. I mean, again, you see the nexus. And so, yes, but notwithstanding that, what is happening in Parliament clearly is good. It's very, very good. We have disagreed with the majority, the Speaker, on his referral to Parliament of the matter to a committee, and I take the view that Dr. Kojo Asante has taken. If you read Article 82 clearly, you will see that this action, the vote of censure, is intended to be a quick, decisive action. After all, the threshold for getting a minister voted out of office is very high. That is why when you read it, you will get the sense that no, this matter is supposed to be debated and ended in Parliament, and all members of Parliament to take part. All members. So if you want, like Honorable Apia Kobi knows, that it will be a committee of the whole House, the plenary, dealing with that matter. But as it's a new process, we're learning a lot from the processes. We should not turn it into a court. It's not a courtroom. In fact, it's supposed to be debate. It's supposed to be what happened in France during the French Revolution. That people will meet in the marketplace and argue. In this case, it's the Parliament, and argue. If they are able to convince 2/3 majority of the members of Parliament that somebody must go, and it's difficult, that person goes. That's the intendment of Article 82, not a courthouse.
I mean, let me bring you in, Mariada, into the conversation. So we have a situation now where there's a deadlock. The deadlock appears to be Parliament versus the executive around Ken Ofori-Atta. The president hasn't budged. The man himself is fighting off the thing. Meanwhile, the economy is at the heart of this. Today, in fact, before the committee, his lawyer, Gabi Asare-Chidako, raised the issue that whilst he's sitting there before the committee, he needs to be preparing the budget. He needs to be leading the negotiations with the IMF. All very important issues that he needs his attention. Meanwhile, he spent his entire day before the committee. Something definitely has to give, right? What must give? I mean, now where we are.
Certainly, something definitely has to give. And I think Kojo and Honorable Inusa have made these clear submissions. What we need to be asking is what the president is thinking about. Is he serving the interests of the people of Ghana whom he swore to serve? If the people of this country are saying that at this point, we believe that these are the issues we have identified. We are in an economic crisis where everything is going haywire, where people are suffering. The hue and cry out there is so significant. And it is gotten to the proportions where the president goes round and he's being booed and jeered at. And even with this, he's decided to put in wool in his ears. What at all about the finance minister is so unique and special that we believe he should continue to be there? At this point, we are seriously in a threshold where everything could go down the drain. The parliamentarians say we are not working with this gentleman. So if he prepares the budget, who is he reading this budget to? Because the budget is supposed to go through Parliament, then Parliament debates and does appropriation on same. This is somebody the people are saying we do not want to work with. The president has decided to pay a deaf ear to it. We are continuing to maintain this man. If he goes ahead to prepare the budget, who is he reading this budget to? That's the question we should be asking. And perhaps we should ask the president to give us a reason why he believes Ken Ofori-Atta is the only one who is competent enough in this country to turn the issues around, particularly when he has gone round to make insinuations that if he is the one who has put us through this, then he should be the same to take us out of it, which is infuriating people the more. People are suffering. That is the appreciation we must all contend with and know that there are people in this country, technocrats in the ministry, are doing the work. We all know that in the budget process, it is taken through different processes where the technocrats do the work. And so for presentation, people say, we don't want you. Please step aside. If he is not stepping aside, or if the president is not able and willing to let him go, we are begging the honorable minister to step aside and let the process go through. Do they want this country to sink? That is what is happening. We do not have credibility anymore in the sight of those who would even give us the money. Now, we are doing things that are affecting the public sector, affecting the private sector, and affecting the ordinary citizen on the streets. What at all do we want to do again to let this process give so that this country can move forward?
Yeah, I want to bring in Mr. Piakubi again. Mr. Piakubi, as a wrap up, let me understand. At this meeting you held today, did you consider what to do when the vote of censure comes to the floor? Your earlier position, I know, was that that's just something that you don't want to associate yourself with. Is that still the position?
Yes, that is still the position. We are not part of the processes of determining whether or not the votes of censure will carry. We are not part of this, so we will not participate in that also. We think that we have, and believe me, the process through the vote of censure will come back to the president with a prayer that he should relieve him. We have already sent this prayer to him, so we don't believe that we have to start the whole process again. And we also anticipate the difficulties that the whole process will encounter. And for us to come to a reasonable point of relieving the finance minister or not. Because the way it is, the committee has 4-4 in membership, and therefore one of the things that can happen would be 4 against 4-4. And then that will be a stalemate, come to plenary and maybe a stalemate, and the vote will not carry. So we as members of the majority, we don't believe in that process.
Okay.
That probably will take us nowhere. But the onus is on the president or on the minister to either resign from
or be sacked.
Office.
But Mr. Piakubi, I'm curious. I mean, all of you have been applauded, but you're doing this at personal great political cost. Are any of you being threatened, feeling, that you're bringing the weight and the power of the president on you, victimized in any way in the position you've taken, especially you've been speaking a lot. Has anything like that been happening in your ranks?
I don't expect it of such things to happen. We are not being personal, and we are not personal towards even the minister. So we don't believe that anybody should also be personal in any relationship towards us as individuals. If somebody is going to be vindictive towards the whole group, then that should be something else to discuss. But we are not afraid to be confronted with such a situation. We will find a way to get out of that. And our consideration is that let's save the government, let's save the party, and let's save Ghana.
I'm grateful. That's a perfect way to end this conversation. Mr. Nusa Fuseni, Mary Ada, Kojo Asante, Mr. Piakubi, thank you very much. This is a conversation that is not ending anytime soon because of the process that have started. We'll get to review this process thoroughly pretty shortly. So I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time, and lady, for your time. This has been PM Express. On the night, we got to learn that the majority members, now they are 98, they just finished a meeting, and they have decided collectively that they will boycott the budget unless Ken Ofori-Atta is sacked immediately as of tonight. If not, they will boycott the budget. And that will be really interesting when the majority side, the government members of parliament, the governing party's members of parliament are not in the house. Normally it's the opposition that does that. We wait to see if the president will act before then. Enjoy the rest of it.